Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to my latest marriage saving advice video. I am, of course, Brad Browning, a breakup and marriage coach from Canada. Preventing divorces and healing broken marriages is one of my passions, and it's also what I've been doing as my day job for the last 11 years or so. Now, in this video, which I'm going to keep as brief as possible, I'll answer one of the more interesting questions that I've received from a client this week, and that is, can separating from your spouse actually help you save your marriage? Now, that is a great question indeed, and it's a controversial one among marriage counselors and therapists. Some experts and academics think that separating can help a couple recognize what they'd lose if they were to get divorced, but others think it's more unproductive and more of a dangerous waste of time. So guys, I mean, aside from getting into Marty McFly's DeLorean time machine, you can't undo the past. You're stuck with a marriage in crisis. Maybe your spouse has suggested separation, maybe you're considering it, or maybe you're separated already, even though you never wanted to be apart in the first place. Now, what does this mean for your chances at rebuilding a happy, lasting marriage? Well, in my opinion, in a lot of circumstances, a bit of time apart can actually be extremely helpful. Now, don't put me in the separation is helpful camp just yet, because I don't really feel that way in all situations, as I'm going to discuss later in this video. But I do think that it can be a positive thing in some cases for some marriages. Now, why can it be positive? Well, for starters, a marriage that's falling apart is usually stuck in a negative feedback loop. So in layman's terms, you and your spouse keep doing the same things over and over again. Things that are damaging your marriage in one way or another, whether you realize it or not. And until you break that cycle and get out of the rut, nothing is going to change in your marriage. And an unhappy marriage needs to change, obviously, or it's not going to survive for the long term. So separation from your spouse is obviously one way to break that cycle, at least temporarily. So let's say, for example, your jealousy was a major cause of your spouse's unhappiness in the marriage. You often became jealous, lashed out, created a toxic environment of mistrust, and all those things led to your spouse feeling, chained down and frustrated. Right. And taking a break from that negative cycle that you and your spouse have been trapped in can really help. But it isn't going to save your marriage, of course, in the long term if you just pick up right where you left off and immediately go back into all those same, negative habits upon moving back in together. Because if you do that, then you're just going to find yourself in the same situation with all the same problems back again. So separation can help with this in the short term, but you need to make changes to break the cycle permanently if you want to solve things and remain happily married for years to come. Now, another benefit to spending time apart, well, you can really just put an end to bickering, to fights, and all the petty disputes that sometimes come to dominate day-to-day married life. I mean, think about it. It's hard for your wife to get mad at you for failing to wash the dishes if there are no dirty dishes to wash in the first place. And of course, it's hard to bicker over stupid little things the way a lot of couples do incessantly, after years of marriage together, if you're not actually physically together. So that sort of thing may eventually make its way back into your marriage once you begin living together again. But a break from the day-to-day dramas and conflicts can really be a huge help that sort of, sometimes rejuvenates a relationship enough to get both spouses to buy back in and put in some more effort to make the marriage work. Now, if you're struggling with that kind of bickering, those petty arguments, general hostility towards one another in your marriage, I suggest you employ some of the simple techniques that I talk about in the full video on my website, marriageguy.com. Just watch that video to the end after this one, and you'll learn a few super simple ways that you can diffuse or prevent those arguments in the first place without actually needing to separate. Again, those dispute diffusing techniques are at marriageguy.com. So again, head over there after this video and take a look. All right, and lastly, and perhaps most importantly, separation can give you perspective, and it can clearly demonstrate how much worse life can be when your spouse isn't around. We tend to take our partners for granted after years together, and we often fall into sort of a grass is greener mindset. So, I mean, you might think, or maybe your spouse thinks that divorce is going to lead to an overall happier life. But are you really sure about that? How do you know? Often a few weeks or months of separation from your spouse can show you that the grass isn't always greener on the other side, and make you feel a sense of gratitude for the positive things that your spouse or your partner brings into your daily life. So that's it then. Separation is a good way to save a marriage? No. If you don't need to separate, don't. Quite frankly, at the very least, look at separation as a last-ditch effort once you've tried everything else, because, it can just as often make matters worse. So if you're separated for a few months, for instance, and your spouse finds that you're actually just as happy with life when you're not around, in that kind of situation, where separation doesn't lead to gratitude or a new perspective on all the positive things that your spouse brings to your life, then it's usually just step one on the path to divorce. And actually, in a lot of places, a lot of countries, separation is also a legal requirement for divorce. All right, yes, I am ready to make a ruling on this case. Here's the bottom line. While separation can actually work out for the best, it's not a situation that I would suggest you actively try to get yourself into. If your spouse is dead set on separating, then you can accept that and hopefully use it to your advantage to right the ship and save your marriage before it truly falls apart. But otherwise, I don't advocate separation as a way to fix your marital problems until you've already tried everything else. Now, of course, my program, Mend the Marriage, is basically designed to be a one-stop guide to saving any marriage, even if your spouse is convinced that divorce is the only option. So if you haven't yet tried all the simple techniques in my program or in the free video on my website, then that's your next step. Oftentimes you'll be able to turn things around and rebuild a loving marriage long before you need to even think about resorting to separation. And yes, folks, as you see, if you watch that video on my website, marriageguy.com, this is all actually completely possible without your spouse's involvement or help. You can save your marriage on your own. I see this happening on a daily basis with my coaching clients. So I know that most of you watching this video can do the exact same thing and save your marriages too. All right, guys, I hope all of you found this video at least somewhat helpful. If you do want to ask questions about your situation, or if you want to flatter me with compliments and praise, please just use that comment section below. As you guys know, I read and reply to pretty much every comment if you guys keep it short. And I really do love hearing your feedback on every one of my videos here on YouTube. So thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for supporting my channel. And here's to you rebuilding a happy and lasting marriage. See you next time.